Welcome to the Martina Tierney Podcast. I want to ask you a favour. If you like what you hear, could you like, share and subscribe, because that helps us to get the message out and for people to hear the wisdom of all our guests.
So my desire is to find ways to ensure that the talents that we have and the difference we can make to our patients is very clearly understood and used.
Very good. And how would you propose to do that?
Well, I'll not do it alone.
No.
I can tell you that
No.
right now.
So my guest on the podcast today is the lovely Michelle Tennyson. You're very welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite.
So Michelle, you are the Chief Allied Health Professions Officer for Northern Ireland.
That's right.
That's a very long title.
It is. It is.
So tell us what that is. Tell us about your job.
So, Martina, I work in the Department of Health.
Mm-hmm.
And the Minister has a number of Chief Professional Officers, Chief Nursing Officer, Chief Medical Officer, and I'm his Chief Allied Health Professions Officer. And I know that term, Allied Health Professions, isn't perhaps well understood. So for anyone that isn't familiar, it's a collective of 14 different professions. 14. Obviously your own, occupational therapy.
The first.
Absolutely. Radiography, paramedics, podiatry, so on and so forth. So an absolutely incredible range of professions. So I provide professional leadership and advice to the Minister.
And you yourself, your profession was podiatry.
My profession was podiatry. That's correct.
Very good. So you represent the allied health professions really at the Department of Health and put forward proposals, and what else would you do for allied health professions?
Well, I would say leadership would be my top priority and is something I'm really passionate about. So I think one of my most important jobs is to understand the vision for health and social care and where we're moving to in the next 3-5 years, so on and so forth, and how I can translate that vision into very practical ways that the 14 professions can respond. And Martina, I don't need to tell you, our world is so innovative, so creative. We come to the table with lots of solutions. So I suppose part of my role is really to gather the troops and get us all going in the one direction, because obviously patient care is what we're all about.
That's right. Next week you have your big conference in the Northwest here.
Yes.
So is that an annual thing?
It is. So we've got 2 key events in the diary every year. We have the Chief AHP Officer Conference, which is the one you're describing. And then we have an awards ceremony in October where we celebrate the really good work of the range of allied health professions and healthcare scientists.
Very good. So the unique thing I think about yourself, Michelle, is that you're really interested and you're really bought into this whole thing about lean. And everyone sort of that knows Seating Matters knows that we have adopted lean methodology here for the last 15 years. And it's something that you're really interested in. Isn't that right? And you've been to the factory before. Tell us about what you think about our process, what you think about the factory, and what are your vision for trying to implement lean into healthcare?
Well, I'll probably start, you know me, I'll tell you the truth, Martina.
So what I want to hear.
I wouldn't have said 3 months ago that I was a massive lean advocate, but what I was someone who really believed in improvement and transformation, and that being everybody's business. So to be honest with you, when someone said to me, you need to be in Limavady at 8 o'clock in the morning on a really cold winter's day.
You were nearly not going to come?
Well, I was always going to come, but I wasn't going to say my heart was popping out of my chest. But my goodness, the minute I walked in through the doors, I felt it. That's all I can say. And I said, well, what did you feel? I felt energy. I felt enthusiasm. But I also, within that split second of being here, knew what you were about, what you stood for, because the simplicity of your vision, of your language, of your principles was so apparent. And I suppose at that point I thought, oh my goodness, this lean thing, or particularly lean made simple. Yeah, I get it, because I'd never associated lean with culture change.
Right.
And I
And
think
that is what it is, really.
That's what it is. And that's what absolutely blew me away. And certainly when I did my training and over the years, people often recall the story of an individual visiting NASA and speaking to, I think it was a janitor, and he said, my job was to put somebody on the moon. And when I came in here and I met every single one of your team, what really inspired me was everybody understood their role in improving the processes and improving the product that would change the lives of service users and carers. So that was just incredible. So yes, I'm a lean enthusiast. Well, actually, lean made simple.
Lean made simple
Lean made
enthusiast.
simple.
Do you see a way that we could apply lean in healthcare?
Absolutely. I think there's no doubt. I think we had a conversation earlier, and I think fundamentally the starting point is to really tap in to why we work within health and social care. And we work within health and social care not to reduce waiting times or not to be more efficient. That's not our raison d'etre. Our raison d'etre is how do we support the people who need us at the right time, as quickly as we can, and in the best way as we can. So I think my experience with the work that you've done is that you've been really able to get into that hearts and minds. And I think once you tap into that, lean and improvement then becomes everybody's business. The other thing I learned from you was the importance of the safe environment. That actually it's a good thing to understand when things haven't gone well, because it's generally an indication that a process or a system isn't working, rather than the individuals. And I think when you can get to hearts and minds and when you create that beautiful environment, which is safe and trusting, I think there are so many lessons for us in health and social care.
Because we do have one of our phrases, our lean phrases, is exactly what you've just said. If we have a defect, which we still can have defects, like there's always going to be a defect, but the thing is to not blame the person for the defect, look at the process and blame the process. So a defect is, we turn it around and say that's an opportunity for improvement. So that's in the health service. We shouldn't be afraid of saying that something has gone wrong, because then that's an opportunity for us to look at it and to make it better. But as you say, you need that culture of that safe, protective, that you are not going to get into bother when you highlight something that's defective.
Well, that's it. And, health and social care is a human system, isn't it? Human beings looking after human beings. And sometimes if we have a culture where we identify that something hasn't gone quite right, if we do that early enough, we can stop it from impacting on other people in the future. And that's really important to people, because people go to work to do the best that they can, don't they?
Yeah. And you want, I've found over the last year or so, probably since COVID maybe, that some, not all, some of the health care people are a bit disillusioned, are a bit overworked and stressed. And we want to provide an environment where they're enjoying coming to work, because you spend so much time at work. How much time do we spend? We need to be enjoying what we're doing. So I do think that the whole lean culture does make it a happy place for people to come and enjoy their work. So Michelle, the post that you're in at the minute, how long does that post last?
Well, it's initially a 5-year secondment, Martina, and I'm 2.5 years in. And I have to say, my goodness, what a privilege to be in this post. And it's quite unique because I get to see right across the health and social care system. I'm working with colleagues in trusts, public health agency, in the strategic planning and performance group. Oh my goodness, every aspect of health and social care. So I have to say it's a post that I am so energized and so enthusiastic and just brilliant.
Very good. Within your current role, Michelle, what is the one thing that you'd like to achieve, or have you an aspiration for the role?
Well, if I think about what I want for our patients and the 14 different professions, and Martina, you know that as allied health professions, when we qualify, we can assess, diagnose, treat, and discharge at that point. And so, what I would really like is the breadth of the skills that our professions hold, that's understood, it's recognised, and that our allied health professions work to the top of their license, because there is so much that we can do and we're absolutely an untapped resource. So my desire is to find ways to ensure that the talents that we have and the difference we can make to our patients is very clearly understood and used.
Very good. And how would you propose to do that?
Well, I'll not do it alone.
No.
I can tell you that
No.
right now. And
how are you going to implement or facilitate that?
Yes. So we have the second largest workforce across health and social care. And I always say to my colleagues, the starting point is to understand what are the biggest pressures facing health and social care in Northern Ireland right here and right now. Take a moment to reflect on the skills and the talents and the solutions that you have within your own professional grouping. And then I feel it's my responsibility to find the ways to bring that together and to bring those solutions and those ideas to those tables where we're discussing how, as a multidisciplinary team, we can come together to realise those improvements for patients. But I will not do that without my professional colleagues with me.
I think you're the right person to do that. You've got the right attitude for it and the right ambition, and you're very enthusiastic about your job. I can see that. Just before we finish, is there any one story in your own clinical life or since that you really felt that you had impacted or empowered somebody? A patient, a colleague?
I can I'll maybe not talk about empowerment, but I'll talk about a memory that I had that was a really humbling experience, I have to say. So I became a head of pediatry services very, very early in my career. And at that point, there was a lot of service change and the service was being significantly reduced. And I think I was 2 years post-qualifying when I got my first head of service role. And I felt I was quite good clinically. And I was able to say, oh, yes, well, you've got condition X. Here's why we treat condition Y. And I remember having conversations with some of the patients that we were going to discharge. And I thought that they were going to tell me about the value of pediatry and how much they needed to have that care. And I didn't hear that. What I actually heard was a group of people who accessed the service because they needed human contact. They were lonely and they absolutely valued that connection and that time. So that experience gave me a very different perspective in how I would provide support or how I would even think about supporting people, because it's not about the practice of your clinical expertise. The starting point is the human story. It's who are you? How are you? What's important to you? And then I think at the end of that, it's what can we do to support and contribute to that. I have to say, previously, had I seen that patient in my clinical practice, I'd have been straight into lifting my equipment, treating what I saw in front of me. But what it taught me was to think about, how do I partner with community and voluntary sector organisations? How do I support families better? Because actually, that's what the person really needed. So that's a very long story, Martina.
No,
so I hope I've explained how that changed my thought process.
That's probably why you're in the job you're in now, because you don't just, you didn't just treat the condition. You thought about the whole person, and now you're thinking about the whole profession, how that all those professions can help the individual. I had a similar experience when I broke my wrist. I went to an OT for hand therapy, and I had all these things. I was about to go and speak at a conference, all these things. And when I went in, the first thing she did was she wrapped my arm in a warm blanket or whatever. And she says, well, how are you? And what are the, what's the problems here? And I started to ream off all those things. I can't put on my own clothes. I can't drive the car. I can't look up. And, it wasn't about the wrist. She didn't take me and start examining the wrist. She just wrapped it up in a nice warm towel or something and just asked me about me. So that's what you found that you needed to do with your patients. Just find out what was important to them. It wasn't the feet. Although that's a very important thing.
Absolutely critical. Absolutely critical. But for that cohort of people, it wasn't what was most important for them. And I also recall a fabulous physiotherapy manager, Nancy Blakeney. And Nancy always talked about the importance of touch. And she always recalled a story of a lady who had lost her husband many years prior to that. I think the lady was in her 80s. And in clinical practice, she laid her hands on the lady who started to cry. And it was the first time since her husband had died many years previously that anyone had ever touched her. And I think that's where the power lies. And earlier on, you talked about, how do you motivate people? That, for me, that's how you motivate them, because we come into these professions because it was a vocation. And I don't think we should ever lose that fact.
And that's what we need to get back to, isn't it?
I think so.
This might be a difficult question, but what's the one challenge that, when you go and see all these different professions, is there one thing or is there not one thing that bugs them? We talk about fixing what bugs you. Is there one thing or is there not just one thing?
Well, there's probably many things.
Is there a common thing?
Yes. What I would say is that our professions right across the 14 different individual professions, one thing that's common is passion, enthusiasm, energy, and wanting to come to the table with solutions. And if I see any frustration, it's that how do we get those solutions to the right place at the right time? So it's one of those, it's like that question, what's negative, but it's actually a positive.
Yes.
So that is such a gift to work with colleagues like that, I have to say.
And we were speaking to Mike Farr there, the permanent secretary, earlier, and he was talking to me about the neighbourhood reset.
Yes.
And what's your view on that? And how do you think that's working out at the minute?
We're early doors. We've produced the Department of Health policy on neighbourhoods. Have to say, it feels so familiar to us as allied health professions.
Feels good. Yeah.
It feels absolutely fantastic because, it's all about early intervention, identifying how we can keep people at home, or when people go into the hospital system, how we bring them back out as quickly and as safely as possible. So it very much sits with our value set, with our asset-based approach, and occupational therapists would be absolutely critical within that. So I think it's a great time of opportunity. I think it's going to challenge us as well, because I think over the years we've got into a pattern, and that pattern is a problem is identified, a referral is made, we go on a waiting list, we then provide support intervention, and then we discharge. It's a pretty common pattern. But actually, if we're really going to live the value of neighbourhoods, we'll be coming out of clinics as much as possible, and we'll be going to where people are and meeting people when they need us. And actually, if you're to take that to its logical end, you should see referrals reduce significantly because you're seeing people exactly when they want to be seen. So really good opportunity.
Yeah. I've interviewed a lot of OTs, for the podcast, not just OTs, but I have interviewed, and that theme came up. A lot of them said the same thing. Like, this is last year and the year before, that we as OTs, we want to be where the person is living, where they're functioning. That's where we as OTs need to be. That they were saying acute care was not really for them, this particular person, she said, because we need to be where the person is functioning to see how they are, and how we can keep them at home doing the things that they want to do, the meaningful things. So I think OTs and all the AHPs have a very good role to play in this neighbourhood reset.
I would absolutely agree with you. And I think the one word that keeps playing over in my mind is function. How can we, as part of the multidisciplinary team, ensure that we protect people's function, particularly our older people, particularly our frail elderly people? And certainly I remember when I first came into an allied health professional lead role and meeting with occupational therapy colleagues, there was one key message. And that key message that they gave me was, we're about assets. We're about what's the support that an individual has around them. But also, if someone has a level of deficit, maybe they've had a stroke or something, the focus isn't on what can't you do. It's always, what would you like to do? And how can we use your ability to help you do that? And I really, really, I never forgot that. And I thought, that's really, for me, what defines that culture within occupational therapy. It's a positive, it's a feel good, it's an energizing approach. And I think that is exactly what we need if we're going to make the neighbourhood approach successful.
Well, I have to say, Michelle, you've got the energy, you've got the attitude, and I think you are a perfect leader for the AHPs, and want to thank you so much for the work that you've done, and wish you luck for the future, and especially for your conference next week.
Thank you, Martina.